Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score, your recruiting edition. We are kind of in the offseason mode. It's before conference championships, it's before the playoff, but we got early signing day, aka the only signing day that counts. And Missouri and all other schools cleaned up on the recruiting front today. They did it. And so we're going to talk about all the recruits that are now Missouri Tigers and the impact and everything that happened today. Nathan Hurst, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's weird that we were talking about signing day on December 4th. It was previously, the early signing day was like the third week of December. So push it way up. Kind of just doesn't feel right. The whole recruiting calendar is a complete joke and a mess to begin with. So I guess it's just be used to things that don't feel right, because that's just kind of how the entire college football world off the field feels like.
College football's a mess constantly. And anybody who tries to put organization to it, it just makes it messier. So that's part of the charm, part of the beauty. But yeah, we're going to talk about recruiting. And of course, it kicked off last time we recorded on Sunday. We had the joy of being able to not break the news, but share the news with you that Missouri signed Marquise Davis, or had his verbal commit at the time. Of course, he officially signed today. And then, that was a flip. That was a flip away from Kentucky towards Missouri. And I mentioned on the show that flipness goes both ways. And lo and behold, it did happen. The well-regarded offensive lineman, Lamont Rogers, flipped from Missouri to Texas A&M. And the Tennessee running back, Jamarian Morrow, went with him to A&M as well. So that's the negative. Let's talk about the negative. Both of those guys were committed for a very long time. But we all kind of knew Rogers was going to be in the open market, especially after he watched Missouri get pantsed by A&M in person. That seems least surprising, but it's not great. How do you feel about these guys flipping away from Mizzou?
I mean, it's a bummer, definitely a bummer, especially talking about Rogers. We said way back in the summer when he committed that Mizzou doesn't get 4-star, and then he turned into a 5-star offensive lineman. Mizzou doesn't get commitments from those guys out of the Dallas area. I mean, really, you don't get commitments from 5-star linemen anywhere, but certainly not from the Dallas area. So it was very strange, also in a good way, that they got his commitment. But you kind of always felt like the other shoe was still waiting to drop there, and eventually it seems like Texas A&M put together an offer that he couldn't refuse, and he's chosen to stay closer to home. You can't blame the kid to do that. For doing that, Texas A&M's got a good program going. So hard to really blame him for doing that. I'm sure they made him a very generous NIL offer for his commitment, as things tend to go. So definitely a big bummer. Jamarian Morrow, great player as well. Would have been made a great Tiger, but to be honest, the not just one but two running backs that Mizzou managed to sign/flip here at the end of the day, right at the end of the period, probably evened out, if not maybe made me a little more excited. I think I might be a little more excited for Marquise Davis watching his film a little more than Jamarian Morrow, who great player, a little smaller, different style of running back, and I kind of like Marquise Davis's style a bit more. So bummer, but it goes both ways, as you said, and we got some flips on the other end that beyond Davis even that are pretty exciting as well.
Yeah. You always kind of just read the tea leaves on what coaching staffs do. And Jamarian Morrow had been committed for a long time, and yet Missouri was still heavily recruiting well-regarded running backs, which you always want to do. But if you have one in your pocket and you feel pretty good about it, you tend to kind of, maybe you don't need to. Maybe the pressure isn't there. And yet it seemed like Missouri was very pressed to bring in some more running backs. So, that's one of those things. But yes, Mizzou did flip some other guys, and it was a lot of fun. The story of the day, I mean, really, Javian Hilson. If you don't know the name, learn it quick. He is a 5-star to Rivals. They love him. He's a 4-star with 24/7 and on 3. Defensive edge rusher out of Cocoa, Florida. This guy highly regarded, was committed to Florida State for a very long time. I think Alabama was in the mix too for a little bit. So that's the kind of company that Missouri is keeping here. And when Florida State's season went into the tank, he opened up his recruitment. I know that Mizzou had been talking to this guy. It really didn't seem like this was a possibility until really the last couple of weeks. And the fact that they got a 5-star or a 4-star, whatever service you want to, doesn't matter, man. This is like a highly rated blue chip defensive lineman that's not from Missouri or even Illinois. You talked about the rarity of getting blue chip linemen. This fits the bill. I'm shocked and I love it. What are your thoughts on this?
It was an incredible, and for me personally, kind of came out of nowhere. Just even the last few days wasn't really on my radar as a possibility till it started. 2-3 days ago, it started kind of getting out there that he was was not only seriously considering Mizzou, but a Mizzou lean perhaps. You mentioned Alabama. Michigan was, I think, ultimately the final contender for Mizzou with Mizzou for his services. And if Michigan has done one thing really well in the last few years, it's produce amazing defensive linemen. So to pull him away from Michigan, I think was definitely a big coup. Out of Florida, you may recognize where he's from, Cocoa. That is where Javen Boggs played, and he was a one-time Tiger recruit before decommitting and committing to UCF, and now he's going to Florida State because Gus Malzahn was at UCF, and he's now going to Florida State as their offensive coordinator. So that Boggs is on his 4th school commitment. Best of luck to him. But it's clear that the Tigers have made inroads in Cocoa, which is a very good, very, very good Florida high school. And that's great sign, not just for getting Hilson, but hopefully for future years as well, because that area, that part of the country produces a ton of talent. And it's clear that the work they're putting in over there is working. Toss in Donovan Alugbade, not the same high school, but the same part of the state, same part of the country. 4-star wide receiver in his own right. They're doing some serious work in Florida, which is great. And a far cry from past attempts at making inroads in Florida. Yeah. Gary Pinkel did that. And we don't need to revisit the history there, but the guys that he got out of Florida were not nearly the same caliber as these guys. And ultimately only maybe one in Ish Witter actually became a solid Mizzou Tiger in terms of playing on the field. So I have much higher hopes for this class of Florida future Tigers for sure.
Florida is almost over recruited. And so if you don't have an inside guy, you're just going to be shelled a bunch of Fugazi. And that's what Gary Pinkel got. Character issues, guys who were, just high school wonders who were never going to translate to the college level. He just did not have that trust. He did not have that inroad. And I'm not saying Eli Drinkwitz does, but Jacob Peeler does. Wide receivers coach, nasty wideouts. That dude, the second he got on staff, Florida opened up. So Jacob Peeler is your Florida whisperer, and pay that man his money. It is absolutely worth it. So yeah, it's good to see. And when you look at how Missouri breaks down from their recruiting standpoint, what their recruiting footprint is, obviously the state of Missouri, you got a bunch of talent here and you're right there. Like you're going to have a ton of players from Missouri. For a very long time, Texas was the number 2 state for Missouri, fielding Missouri Tigers. Usually it was number 2 by quite a bit. And as Eli Drinkwitz has kind of gone through his tenure, we have waned away from Texas and Georgia, picked up Arkansas a little bit, but Florida has really been the big development, especially over the past couple of years, as far as recruiting success goes. And that's great because there's talented football players in the state of Florida. They're fast, they're talented. You want those guys. And now they have 13 on the roster right now before we get rid of everybody else who graduates. So it's great. It's what you want. If you want to compete in the SEC, you need speed from Florida, and Missouri's finally got it, which is great. The other flip was actually away from Boise State of all places. But if you've known Boise for the past 24 years, they figured out how to find talented kids who are overlooked, and especially running backs. And Missouri just flipped a running back away from Boise State, Brennan Haygood. Now, this one has been on the radar for quite some time. It was kind of a worst kept secret that he was looking to go somewhere else, but they flipped him. He is a 3-star on Rivals, and I know he kind of varies based on service, just like everybody else. But he's 5'10", 180. So if you use my rule, he's probably 5'8", 160. But he's out of, oh boy, I'm not the Texan here, Nathan. Is it Sachet, Texas?
That's a place that I have. There's a lot. Texas is a large place.
It is.
I've been to many parts of it. That is a part I have not been to. So I am not the best.
I've not heard of it either, but that's where he's from, and now he's coming to Mizzou. Again, this staff was looking to add running backs, even with Jamario Morrow on the list. So I think they kind of knew that, hey, we need some backup plans for this guy, and they certainly got him. With Marquise Davis, flipping from Kentucky was great, but this Brennan Haygood, they've been on this kid for quite some time. They wanted him for a while. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions on this Haygood kid?
Smaller than Davis, definitely a different style back, which I think it's good to have, a diverse set of skills in the backfield. I think he's at this point a good depth piece, and in a position where you need to have 3 or 4 guys. If you don't have a Cody Schrader, which no one does anymore, you need to have 3 or 4 guys, as this year proved, that can all contribute. And so it's kind of hard to really put a finger on exactly when or where Haygood will do that, but you're not going to turn down really, really solid running backs. He's good. He's just a good, solid all-around player. Can catch the ball out of the backfield. It just one more depth piece. And it almost makes you wonder, by bringing in 2 running backs in this class, if they're not, thinking that at least one of the guys currently on the roster might be hitting the portal. We haven't heard word of anybody, but they seem like they were not content with Morrow, but had set on Morrow as their only running back commitment for the longest time, literally as long as they could possibly go, until they needed somebody else. Maybe once they realize that that maybe a guy or 2 are going to drop out or transfer, that is, bring in two to supplement that. And I wouldn't be shocked if they went into the portal and looked for a more experienced player as well.
I would. And really, you can look at the playing time and how it shakes out, and you can make some pretty good educated guesses on potential transfers away. And that's ruling out, somebody tried to nab somebody and move them away with more money. But yeah, you could absolutely talk yourself into a situation where a couple of these guys go. And keep in mind, one of the guys listed at running back is Austin Dindy, who was supposed to come on as a safety, and Missouri needs a lot more safeties than they need running backs right now. So there's, you can connect a lot of different dots here, and we're never going to know the stories specifically, but you can at least kind of, infer and make educated guesses, like I said. And yeah, I mean, you should absolutely go to the portal because you need an experienced guy who's probably a little bit older. Boy, if you think that Missouri can, recruit the portal well, I think there should be enough running backs who are like, oh, I'd like to burst onto the scene, please. Like, come to Mizzou. We'll feature you. We'll give you the ball 50 times. Yeah, this is a good place to do that. So I have no doubt that they're going to look and they'll probably take one, but having 2, yeah, as insurance, I'm about that. That's good. And of course I loved seeing a flip. It's always nice. So it's been a busy early signing day.
We've got one more flip too that we're leaving out. Demarion Fox.
That's right.
Or Fawkes. Former Pitt commit at wide receiver. Right. Really liked this guy's tape. Just kind of solid all around. He reminded me a lot of Donovan Olugbaday, to be honest. Bigger receiver, really solid, good route runner. Of course, was the best athlete on his team, so he was a kick returner, punt returner, touched the ball as many times as possible. What I really liked watching him do that was his vision. A lot of times wide receivers don't necessarily worry about having great field vision, that's just run really fast and catch the ball. This guy's ability to find holes, and it was primarily in, on kick returns, punt returns, he was waiting for holes to open up. He was doing a lot of those things that you look for a running back to do, but with a wide receiver's skill set. So I was really excited to see him come on scene. He's a 4-star, like everybody else on this class, it seems like. And a flip, I think, after Pitt took a downturn this year, and their offense has been pretty awful for a few years now. It was a pretty easy decision for him to come a little farther west to Mizzou.
Yeah, Montgomery Village, Maryland. Can't remember the last time Missouri recruited Maryland, got a kid out of Maryland.
Football wise, I don't know if I do not have any memories of that.
I think we had a walk on, but
yeah, the only athlete I know for sure from Mizzou period that's from Maryland is Kim English, was from Baltimore, and
yep.
I could, and as a basketball player, but any other sport, I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but that is not a state that we often tap.
No, it's not. So it's nice to see. I know he's a 3-star in Rivals, 4-star on 24/7. Yeah, I mean, he does play big. It's very funny because you watch him play like, wow, that's a huge receiver. And then it's like, oh, 5'11", 180. Okay, well, again, that's the tape tells you what one thing, and then the actual measurements tell you another. But yeah, he's got great hands. I'm very excited to see what he can do. I think the theme, with Mizzou is just another feather in the cap of Eli Drinkwitz. They are recruiting at an SEC level, which, again, I will admit, I never thought they could do. I always figured that they would have to make do with diamonds in the rough and coaching guys up and just, whatever. And Eli Drinkwitz has shown that you don't have to do that. You can recruit just like everybody else. Now they're probably going to end up somewhere in 17th, 18th, 19th land, which is probably going to be, 12th, 13th, or 14th in the SEC. But still, it's elite recruiting. And if you go off of Rivals, which has been around the longest, and what I usually go to is just as a benchmark, these are the most blue chip recruits Missouri has ever brought in a single class. Not only that, but the number that are from territories that Mizzou has not trod upon for recruiting: Maryland, Ohio, multiple guys from Ohio.
3 guys from Ohio now.
What? I don't know how they're doing. Like, I know you got to put effort into recruiting, but like, how do you walk in with the Mizzou M on your chest into Canton, Ohio, and get the time of day, let alone talented receivers and talented? I don't know how they're doing it, but it's incredible to see.
It's awesome. And you mentioned Rivals as the most 4-stars in Rivals, or at least blue chip recruits. That's the case in all. I mean, On3 has only been around a couple of years, but 24/7 too, 10 4-stars from there, which is by far the most in this class, or in any class in the recruiting services era, shall we say. They currently ranked in the 24/7 composite 19th overall, which is good, solid. But what I'm typically more interested in than that, because that ranking takes in not only the quality of the recruit, but the number of recruits that you're bringing in. And this is a smaller class, not just in this era of lots of transfer portal, but period. I mean, there's only 17 players in this class. So it's very small. When you so that hurts the overall ranking just because there's fewer players. When you look at the average rating composite among all of them, that ranking bumps up to number 13. So this really is the 13th best class in the country based on the quality of the athlete that's coming in, which is pretty astounding. And if you talk about where that ranks in the SEC, no, is it in the top half? No, it's right in the middle. It's actually right in the middle. 13th in average stars is 8th in the SEC. Okay. Which is still awesome. If you can finish 8th in the SEC in recruiting in any year, that is incredible. It's outstanding. I mean, right now they are where do they sit in that? Yeah, I mean, they're just behind Tennessee, A&M, Auburn, LSU, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, schools they are never going to be in front of. So you're fine being in front of them. They're ahead of Oklahoma. They're ahead of Florida. They're ahead of Ole Miss. So if you're beating Florida, you're beating Oklahoma, you're in a good spot, because they're never going to beat Texas, they're not going to beat Alabama, never going to beat Georgia. But being that spot 8th, if he can consistently land 8th, 9th, even 10th, you are feeling outstanding about the class that you're bringing in.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the class a little bit. If you've been following Mizzou on the social media. Obviously, we've been keeping a tracker on Rockham. I think everybody who follows the sport has some kind of tracker somewhere. You can see everybody who's going to commit. We're not going to list everybody by name, but we do want to point out a couple that we're excited about or we find interesting. Every time somebody commits, we kind of give a breakdown here, and we have our favorites, and we talk about the film and all that stuff. But let's just review. Nathan Hurst, of everybody. Well, let's throw out Mr. Hilson. Okay, let's just put him to the side. Of the class minus him, which commit makes you the most excited?
I mean, I might also be cheating to say Matt Zollers, but
okay, yes.
I will toss out Matt Zollers too because he's the highest rated player in the class, and to have your highest rated player in your class be a quarterback is really really exciting. So I'll call that cheating as well. We'll toss out Hilson and Zollers. Beyond that, oh man, I just throw a dart at this list of names, and I'd be excited. Really excited about Jack Lang. I think he's going to be really, really good. We lost Lamont Rogers, yes, but I feel really good about him coming in as kind of hopefully in 2 or 3 years, he's your starting left tackle type of talent. Really excited about him.
He's a local boy, Eureka, Missouri.
Local, yes, Missouri kid that stayed home. We talk about not getting out of state blue chip offensive linemen. We most of the time don't get in state blue chip offensive linemen. So it was great to get him to stay home. So I'll go Lang, and then on the defensive side of the board, a guy who I really think is under the radar, but could end up being a really good player in this class. And that's Dayton Hopkins, the Herman product. He's definitely a developmental guy. We talked about him back in the fall. I think maybe August when he committed, July, August. Really tall, really skinny, has a long way to go in terms of developing his body to be a SEC level pass rusher, but he's got the frame for it. And in the latest recruiting rankings, they've actually bumped him up. He was, as a junior, was splitting his time as a defensive end and a tight end / wide receiver, which is kind of ridiculous in its own right. Just that shows you his athleticism. Natural athleticism that he has. This year, I think he finally, as a senior, focused, if not 100% of the time, the majority of the time, as a defensive end. And the recruiting sources saw that, and they bumped him up, and he bumped all the way up to 4-star in at least 24/7's ratings. So I'm excited about him, and bringing in a guy like Hilson on the edge, and then Hopkins on the edge to supplement what you've got in the pipeline with Williams-Nwaneri. You've got Jakai Lang, who's only a sophomore, redshirt freshman this past year. He has at least 2 more years of eligibility. Zion Young's got at least another year. You're really building a very solid defensive end room. Darius Smith has been hurt all year. He's got 2 more years of eligibility left. And he, coming out of camp, if you believe what you were hearing, was going to be the best pass rusher on the team had he been healthy. So he's got 2 more years left. So I'm really excited about Hopkins, about Hilson, obviously, and then that entire defensive end room.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I will, I gotta, I can't just copy your answers here. So I want to say on the offensive side, man, I do like Henry Fanuku a lot. I don't think he's going to play early, but I like him a lot. I'm also super intrigued with Brendan Haygood. Like, this is a guy that this staff has identified a long time ago and really went hard for. And it doesn't seem like much. Like, you watch his tape and like, okay, he's fast. He's a patient runner. He runs behind his blocks. He's versatile. He can catch a pass. Like, I get it. But like, I need to see it. I want to see what they see it. And I'm not saying it's going to happen next year. I'm just like, because they were so enthusiastic for this kid, I'm really curious what they think they can utilize him with. So that one's very exciting to me. I'm really glad that they got him. On the defensive side, I've talked about my favorite player in this entire class. I'm going to just reiterate once again. It is the outside linebacker, Dante McClellan. It is some of the most fun tape that I have watched. Now, not that I've been doing it for a long time, but boy, he does everything. He hits hard. He is flying around. That is the kind of speed and intensity that you just don't really see from Missouri linebackers at that young of an age. And I am so excited for this guy to play. I cannot wait. And again, I know he's going to probably be a special teamer, more likely than not, but he's also walking into a currently thin linebacker room, and I'm really high on his potential here. He is my favorite in this class. I cannot wait to see what he can do.
Yeah, his play style reminds me a little bit of Tyron Hopper's, to be honest. He maybe is a different body type, not quite as tall, I don't think, as Hopper was, but that same just balls to the wall, go as fast as you can, create a lot of havoc. I could see Corey Batoon having a lot of fun with a guy like that. He's a little bigger, I think, than Khalil Jacobs, who he's used a lot like that this year. So it'd be nice to add a little more size to what was this year a very small linebacking core for a reason. I think, for some reasons that's good, but nice to add a little bit more run stopping power there for sure. Fanuku, we talked about when he first committed. I think he takes the Xavier Delgado path. I think he turns into a really solid guard by the time he's a junior, maybe even a redshirt junior. He will find a way as a starter on this line as a guard somewhere. That's where I see him projecting. But I think he will be, assuming you can never assume that someone's going to stay at the same school for 4 or 5 years. But if that happens, I think he will be at least a 2-year starter for Mizzou.
Yeah, that'd be great. As far as everything else, I mean, you look at this list of guys and it's great. I think we always kind of get into a situation where you have a recruiting class come in and you get super hyped for them, and then you don't see any of them and you kind of forget. And then you get hyped about the next freshman class and then you kind of forget about them. So I want to do a 2-parter here. Number one, if there is one guy from this class that you think is going to start, who is it? And number 2, let's revisit the previous class real quick. Let's talk about some of those freshmen or guys that we can see going forward. So from this class that just signed, the guy that I think has the most likely to play, I'm not going to say start, because that'd be insane, but most likely to play is going to be Charles C.J. Bass, the safety out of East St. Louis. And I'm only saying that, yes, there's a pedigree there. Yes, he's very talented. He's also walking into a group that has 5 dudes, counting him. And you play 5. 3 starting. Really, you need another 3 to rotate in. And they got basically nothing. So I know that they're going to go portal shopping for safeties. I know that's going to happen. But he's got talent. If he can make the transition and, get up to the speed of the game, I think you could see Mr. Bass on the field relatively early next season. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's by far the one, just as you said, because that room is so light. There are so few people there, and I'm sure they're going to go portal shopping for defensive backs. They kind of have to. But I do think that bringing a guy like that with that amount of talent, he will find the field, especially because, as you said, at least 5 guys, but you probably want 7 guys throughout the whole position to play meaningful snaps there. And I think he will be one of the 7 most talented guys on the roster in that position next year. So definitely him. A couple other guys that I think have a shot to at least play, probably not start necessarily, but see the field. Donovan Olubide, the wide receiver room it has some talent in it, but I think he's good enough that he could see some like Mekhi Miller type of snaps when he was a freshman. He saw the field a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. And then also your guy Dante McClellan. We talked about the linebacker room being light. If he comes in and we're going to see this year's freshman Nick Rodriguez, Brian Huff. I think McClellan's just as, if not more, talented than those guys. And one of those guys is probably slated to see a lot of playing time this year. So if he comes in and blows them out of the water, he could see. I don't think he'll start, but he could see some playing time as well.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a peek back at the 2024 recruiting class real quick. I know we're very excited about this one, but we already have these guys, and we've seen what they could potentially do. So from this list, you don't really get any starters. Obviously, that didn't happen. Contributors, it depends on how you want to define that term. Really, the people that you saw, the ones who certainly have burned their red shirt, let's put it that way, is Kawan Lacey, the running back, Nick Rodriguez, the linebacker, and that's kind of it.
Jeremiah Beasley, I think, burned his.
Did he?
Well.
Okay.
I think he did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he did. And then Trajan Greco. That's the other one. Trajan Greco. Wait, and Jalen Brown did too, didn't he? Okay. So you got a couple guys who were like special teamers who got out there, but again, like featured, no. Rotated, not really. Nick Rodriguez had the big game for, the big tackle game. Kawan Lacey got a lot of carries against lesser foes, but you didn't really see anybody break through and take that starting mantle. So we'll play the same game, and I think we have probably the same answer. Of that class, who do you think starts this upcoming year?
I think Williams Nwaneri is going to find his way onto the field a lot more than he did this year.
Yeah.
No doubt. And then, Nick Rodriguez or Jeremiah Beasley, I think. One of those linebackers we talked about that room, they lose three. They lose three seniors off of that, and the three players with the highest snap. So one of Beasley and or Rodriguez will definitely start, I have to think, alongside Khalil Jacobs, assuming they don't bring in another transfer portal guy, which they could. But then Williams Nwaneri is going to see a lot more snaps this year, even if he's not a starter. He'll be the third guy in that rotation, I have to think.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a football coach, and so when I see something, that basically amounts to a hill of beans. But I thought that Williams Nwaneri, especially during fall practice, I thought he showed really good bend. I thought he did really well against Missouri's offensive tackles. But I also knew that his 5-star ranking was based mostly on potential and less about proven ability at this point. It's that they knew, like, the recruiting services knew that this dude was going to be good, like really good, first round good, but maybe not just yet. And it seems like the coaches agreed with him on that. So I do think he's going to get out. I mean, you're only going to get him for 2 more years. Let's be frank. He's not going to stick around. If he's any good, he's not going to stick around into a 4th year. So yeah, let's get him on the field. Let's see what he can do. Right there with you with Nick Rodriguez. That's my answer for most likely to be starter. And then the other guy that I want to see, I do want to see Trajan Greco and Jackson Hancock. They were both very athletic guys, very high pedigree coming out of high school. Coaching staff talked about how they could use them, and they're very excited to have them. And then, Greco's kind of carved out a special teams role, but you didn't really even see Jackson Hancock all that much. And again, they could be safeties. I think Jackson Hancock is currently listed as a safety. Greco can just play any defensive back position. But again, you need bodies back there. So I think that they will probably push themselves into rotation, assuming that the transfer portal additions don't knock them down. But I think they have the ability to break through. And I'd love to see it, especially from Jackson Hancock, who I was super high on heading into last year. Then, of course, Trajan Greco, who was impressive enough that he was a special teamer this year. I think both those guys can make an impact.
For sure. I'm really curious to see which, if not both, of Courtney Crutchfield and the president, James Madison, break through as well. Speaking of units that lose a lot of guys, the wide receiver unit certainly does that. So I have to think one of those guys is going to Crutchfield saw the field this year. So I guess he has the leg up on Madison, who I don't believe got any snaps this year. I think he was a pure old school red shirt this year. If he did see snaps, it was in 1 or 2 games. But I would be very curious, especially getting pushed from behind. We got 3 really talented receivers coming in. So they're going to push those guys, and hopefully that gets them to do whatever they need to do to see the field, because I think they both are talented enough to play for this team.
Yeah. Very exciting time. I mean, we're signing in December, and this season's not even over, so they're not even going to be on campus yet. But now you're talking about who's coming in early, who's going to be on campus early, who's going to be playing in the spring game, all that stuff, and we'll figure that out as we go through. But great haul for Missouri. Again, the recruiting continues to do well. It's tremendous to see. Again, as a lifelong Missouri fan, I never thought we'd see this day, so it's very exciting to see actually see it come to fruition. And tip of the cap to Eli Drinkwitz and his staff. They're able to do it. But not only is it high school recruiting, but we're getting close to portal season. That opens up on Monday. And like we mentioned last show, guys are already declaring and putting themselves into the portal, even if it's not open yet. And Missouri is not going to be immune to that. You're going to see some portal defections. It happens. That's just part of the game now. Sometimes they're pushed out. Sometimes they choose to leave. Sometimes they're pulled out, but it's going to happen. And so far, Missouri's had 2. The first was a walk-on kicker. His name was Brody Bain. There we go. Backup kicker for Blake Craig this year. He announced his intention to enter the transfer portal. And then for the second year in a row, a punter who transferred to Mizzou from another school is immediately turning around and transferring out. And our dear blonde-haired Australian Orion Phillips, was it? Yeah, he is out. He is going to hit the transfer portal and try to go somewhere else. So let's start there. Special teamers, backup special teamers. How do you feel about it?
I mean, if that's the only roster attrition that we see this year, you're going to be okay. Well, it won't be, but if there's one position that you can afford to lose somebody, it's your backup. Really, third string kicker, I think, and backup punter. I think they'll be able to survive those losses. Best of luck to Brady and to Orion wherever they end up landing. But those jobs are locked down for, well, the punter job may not be.
Luke Bauer is graduating, so
yeah,
I don't know what.
Interesting that Orion left unless he was confident he was not going to win that job, or they were or was told we were going portal shopping again for a punter. So I don't know, peace. But I don't think Brady Boehm was at any point going to see the field in the next few years. So with Blake Craig with 3 more years of eligibility left, that's just kind of how that goes these days. It's nice that they can do that without being locked in to Mizzou, or at least having to sit out a year. Guys like that, I mean, that's kind of what the transfer portal should be for, is guys who know they're not going to play here, getting to find a better opportunity somewhere else.
Absolutely. And last year's Aussie punter, Riley Williams, he ended up at a school called Edward Waters. Have you ever heard of that, Hurst?
He must have a good football team at Old Edward if they're getting an Aussie punter.
Well, it's a private Christian HBCU, so I don't.
Probably the only Australian on campus, I'd have to think.
I would assume. I don't know for sure, but I feel like that's a safe bet. So yeah, I don't know where they're going to end up, but those are your portal defections so far. So let's talk about the fun portal part, because as you know, Mizzou is going to be throwing some money around the quarterback market now that Brady Cook is gone. And I've tweeted out a couple quarterbacks that intrigue me. And it seems like we are getting to the point where the Drinkwitz staff has zeroed in on a guy that they really, really want. Guy who I know really well because he comes from where? USC, my second team. His name is Miller Moss. He played for USC this year. I think he started 9 games. And this Drinkwitz staff wants him, and sounds like talks are heating up. Sounds like there's a good chunk of change behind their conversations. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but Hurst, what do you think of Miller Moss, Missouri Tiger? How does that sound to you?
Miller Moss from Mizzou. He's a good player. I mean, it's certainly a step up from last year's quarterback portal edition, I think, just in terms of the production that he's had on the field, what he's shown that he can do. Different style of quarterback from Brady Cook a lot. Miller Moss is not a runner in any way, shape, or form. And so it would require some tweaking of the offense, but I think he probably is a better pure passer than Brady Cook. If you just line them up next to each other and said, hit the target and on the move and hit the target in all these different ways, I think Miller Moss might actually be better in that sense. So different quarterback, better in some ways, not as good in other ways. So I'll be curious to see if they do land him, how the offense is adjusted, because we saw this offense run with a immobile quarterback in Connor Bazelak. And honestly, that was probably the biggest reason why he switched away from Bazelak to Cook in the first place, was he needed someone who wasn't running around on one leg. And Miller Moss has a little more mobility than one-legged Connor Bazelak, but not a whole lot more. So I'm not, I'll be curious to see the vision there if and when that happens. Either way, if they do land him, I'd be happy. I think it'd be a good. It would put the quarterback room in a spot where you are comfortable with it going forward. Would he probably beat out Drew Pine? Yes. And Sam Horn, which we can't really forget yet. Probably, yes. But it's not assured. You'd want to have that competition and have someone talented enough to make it a real competition for sure.
So if you strip out sacks, Miller Moss ran the ball. Do you want to guess you want to just venture a wild ass guess? Strip out sacks. How many times do you think he carried the ball?
6 times.
Okay.
And those were probably scrambles. And he'd probably gotten 4 yards on the six on the 6 hits.
Okay. It's not that bad. 11 rushes,
Okay.
41 yards, 2 touchdowns.
All right. All right.
3.7 yards per carry. Yeah.
And a couple of those probably are quarterback sneaks, I'd have to think,
Could be.
which don't really count, and that'll lower your average. But yeah, he was not asked to do that. And Lincoln Riley's offense is one that will take advantage of a mobile quarterback if it is given to them. So
if they have it, yeah.
And that might have been a reason why Lincoln made the switch toward the end of the year to the younger, more mobile quarterback.
Well, that's Jaden Mayava, who ran 13 times for 77 yards so far. So like it's not
in 3 games as opposed to 11 times in 9 games. So
yeah.
He's a different type of quarterback. He played well this year. I don't think he played poorly. He wasn't, his stats this year were much better than any of the games that Drew Pine put up in his 11 games of the starting experience. I have to think.
Well, sure.
All together. Maybe not necessarily in wins and losses, but at least statistically, I'd have to think that he played better than what we saw Drew Pine do in Notre Dame, for example.
So he's not Brady Cook. We've established that. But let's talk about what Miller Moss could do, because you were talking about his ability to throw, which, yeah, he threw the ball 362 times. Like, that's way more than what Brady Cook did. So he is in a more air raid style offense. He would be coming into a more hand off the ball offense. So you're not going to see 362 passes. The big knock on Miller Moss is that he threw bad interceptions, 9 of them, right? Like, that was anytime you could not throw an interception, he was there going, I can do it. And he would do it. And so 9 interceptions in 9 games, not a cute look, as my wife would say. 18 touchdowns though. Like he's throwing it around. 64% completion rate. That's a hair under what Brady Cook was at. 11 yards per completion, which isn't great. But he had a 46.5% success rate throwing the ball. Mucho better than what Brady Cook's doing right now. The big thing for me, because I know the running is not impressive. Okay. I get that. We're not asking him to do it. It is a 45% success rate, but like, we're not asking him to run. He was only sacked on 2.7% of his passes. Okay. Now, I don't know how many of you were following USC, but it's not so much the sacks that they were giving up. It was the issue that they were giving up pressures, 38% pressure rate. And yet he only had a 2% sack rate, that's what you want to hear. That's telling me quarterback can look at pressure, can recognize it, can feel it, and he can still avoid the sack. 97.3% of the time, which that's good. If you have a quarterback who's got like a 2% sack rate, but like a pressure rate of 8, that tells you nothing. That tells you he's playing behind a good offensive line. This is telling me at least, hey, if there are leaks, he's able to identify a receiver, or at least protect the ball, protect himself, and not take that bad hit. So I do like that a lot. If you're comparing anything else on there, the 18 touchdowns I mentioned, 73.4 QBR. Hurst, I don't know how you feel about QBR. I'm a little meh on it. But if that's a stat that you like, he was at 73.4. For comparison's sake, Brady Cook was at a 74 even. So that's kind of what you're getting there. But it seems like this is the guy that they really want. I mean, again,
at least so far. I mean, I imagine there are a lot more names that will come into the portal once the portal's actually open. It's not open yet. Yeah. He hasn't, can't physically put his name in there yet. So theoretically, they shouldn't even be in contact with him yet, even if he's announced that he's going into the portal. Not since he's announced it, I don't think I doubt anyone's going to really care. But yeah. I mean, if this is the guy they want and is the case all the way through, that go for it, get him. I think he would be a fine addition to the team. But I imagine there's going to be even more coming. We just found out today, Jackson Arnold. Now, I'm not necessarily proposing they go after him, but he's entered he announced he's entering the portal today. Once again, that doesn't open officially till Monday, so there's going to be a lot more on Monday, December 9th. A lot more names. And I'm glad they're making inroads now, and it's kind of starting to build that relationship, because I'm sure he's not going to just commit the day that he enters the portal. It's going to be a process. So do that, but keep feelers out for other options as well, because if he could easily make a decision and go somewhere else.
I want to give you a choice. Do you take Miller Moss, which we would be going from let Brady cook to Miller time, which boy, that's tough to beat. Would you take Miller Moss or would you take Connor Wegman? Your thoughts?
That's a tough decision. Ooh. Ooh.
Again, Connor Wegman is the Texas A&M quarterback that beat our asses.
Yes. He is a different in a lot of ways. I don't think he's as accurate, much better athlete. Different type of runner than Brady Cook was, but a good runner. Strong, big guy. Ooh. I think I'd probably take Connor Wegman, to be honest. But I wouldn't feel bad about, if the coaches were given that choice and they chose Miller Moss, I wouldn't be like outraged that was the choice that they made. But I think based on the type of offense I like to see in modern college football, I think I'd prefer a guy who can pick up, 15 yards for you, even just on a scramble drill, which isn't really what Miller Moss is going to do most likely.
No. The problem with Connor, and there's a couple. Number one, he was playing in an offense that was not designed for him. Right. That's the K-State offense is not for a kind of a typical pure passer. He did fine, like you said. He 19 carries, 142 yards. That's 7 per carry, almost 7.5 per carry. So he could do it, but it's the Colin Klein offense really was not for him. He was more of a Jimbo guy, run heavy. Throw the ball around from sets and like reading defenses and stuff like that. So he did not do well at A&M. Really, his best game was against Missouri, and everything else he really just stunk up the joint. Just to wit, 5 starts over 6 games. He had a 56% completion percentage. Ugh. He had 3 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Ugh. How many touchdowns did he throw against Missouri? 3?
It's at least 2. They ran a lot of touchdowns.
They did.
Had a lot of rushing touchdowns.
They did. He took a lot of sacks. He had a 7.3% sack rate. He had a QBR of 52.
Yeah.
52. So literally the guy only had one good game against Mizzou and then just fell apart for the rest of the season.
Yes. He had good game. He had his problem. He had a lot of problems, as you said. He battled injuries. He was injured for a middle part of the year. He was only really, this was his sort of, but he's really only started less than 1 full season worth of games. Last year, which was his first year as a starter, he goes out after 4, breaks his leg or something after 4 games, is out for the rest of the year. He looked really good in those first 4 games last year. This year, starts the season healthy, gets hurt on like the 3rd game of the year, is out for a few weeks, comes back, beats Mizzou's ass, has a couple of subpar games that is benched after that. So he really hasn't had a whole, and maybe he started 10 games in his career. So his sample size is very low. So I'd be very curious to see, given more time on the field in a system, like you said, that is more suited to his skills, which I think the one at Mizzou would be more suited to his skills, much more than Colin Klein's offense, that's for sure. I would be intrigued by that. That said, it's close enough that I would not be outraged at choosing either option.
Yeah. Look, guys, there's no perfect quarterback out there. Anybody that the staff is going to talk to is going to have noticeable warts to go along with the pretty numbers that you like. So this is, again, these are all hypotheticals. There's just kind of weighing your options. Trust the staff to find the guy that's going to work best for them, because there's not just going to be a silver bullet that you put into the chamber and then you're good to go. Miller Moss I'd be good with. Connor Wegman I'd be good with. I really like the Anthony Colandrea kid from Virginia. Just the hypest white boy you've ever seen. Throws way too many picks, but by God, he's just a playmaker. I really, really wanted John Mateer out of Washington State, but now his offensive coordinator is going to Oklahoma, so he's probably going to Oklahoma too, which makes me sad because now we're going to have to play the guy. But I don't know. It's just the market is not open, like you said. We're only getting little pieces here and there, but I'd be good with Miller. Again, Miller time. The phrase is built in for you. That's easy. That's easy. But yeah, there's the portal's going to be open for quarterbacks. And again, Missouri needs safeties. Missouri will always take an offensive lineman. They'll always take a defensive lineman. They probably need a linebacker. They probably need a receiver with starting experience. What am I forgetting? We talked about running back. I mean, they're going to take somebody from every position, right? At this point,
if they can. I mean, you mentioned safety. They absolutely need safeties. They need cornerbacks. I mean, just defensive backs in general. Interior defensive line, I think they really need to pick up somebody as well. That was they only have one incoming freshman. Jason Dowell was who I think is a good developmental prospect. He's not going to play this year, and unless they're confident that a couple of the freshmen from this year are going to really step in and fill the void. I don't think we really saw enough from Jalen Marshall or a Marquise Gracial this year to feel confident that they're going to fill Christian Williams' shoes. And those are really big shoes based on, how long he played it very well for Mizzou. So they're going to have to get somebody there. I think, edge rusher there, it might be the one spot on the defense they don't need to break the bank for. Now, if someone comes along and is like, oh yeah, I want to, a really talented player comes along, they're not going to turn anybody away. But that might be the one spot they don't have to, especially thanks to the fact that they just got a 4 or 5 star freshman that they didn't necessarily know they were going to get until the last minute. So that helps. That helps a lot.
Yeah. Man, the off season's almost just as fun as the actual season, and when we get to talk more about it. So it's fun roster building and seeing all the fun pieces you can potentially play with. But another early signing day complete. Again, the official signing day is like in February. So in theory, they could add some more, but for all intents and purposes, Missouri's done. And now they're just focusing on portal shopping and getting kids on campus and preparing for the bowl game, let alone the spring game that comes up. So it's championship weekend. But hey, before we get out of here, Texas v. Georgia for the SEC crown. Who you got, Hurst?
I've got Georgia. They're actually playing a home game. This basically might as well be a home game after smoking Texas in Austin.
Yeah, I
haven't really been thrilled with Texas's offense lately. I think Georgia's gonna beat them again. Maybe not as badly as the last time around, but I've got them winning.
It feels like a coin flip to me. Texas has been playing better outside of the Arkansas game, and Georgia's been playing worse. Yeah, guess you can't pick against the king until they die. So yeah, I guess it's Georgia. Also, I don't want Texas to come in the first year and win the league.
I'm rooting for Georgia, and I don't often do that, but yeah, I want to be bitter and hope that Texas doesn't win it. Yeah, I mean, you said Georgia hasn't been playing as well. I mean, Texas's defense has been playing really well. Their offense has not been. They looked pretty awful against Kentucky. They looked pretty awful against Arkansas. They looked pretty awful against, not awful against Texas A&M, but they scored 17 points. So that, their defense is great. It's going to be I think it's going to be a low scoring game. But I think Georgia's gonna pull it out.
I do find it funny. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of turnover as far as conference rosters go, but I do find it very funny that each of the Power Four conferences has transient programs in the title game. So ACC has SMU, the Big 12 has Arizona State, the Big 10 has Oregon, and SEC has Texas. All 4 of which were in a different conference the previous year. I think that's fun. I think I like it. I don't want Texas to win. I'm sorry.
I'm fine with Arizona State winning. I'm fine with Oregon winning. I'm fine with I don't know what's the other. SMU. Yeah, no SMU, absolutely. But not Texas. Or if it had been Oklahoma in the same position, I would have been rooting against them too.
Absolutely.
It's just a little different.
Only Mizzou can come in and almost win the conference in the first 2 years. That's the rule. But that's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or you read us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Nate G. Edwards. He's at Burst to Hurst. And of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rock M Radio. And of course, if you're on Blue Sky, we're on over there too. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.